Just as Maple Leaf fans thought there could be no more injuries around training camp, after Tuesday's session, Sheldon Keefe announced that there was another injured player. Hold on. Before we go any deeper, I've found that a lot of people who are watching these videos are not subscribed. So if you do have a YouTube channel, hit the subscription button down below. Don't forget to leave a like as well, because that helps a lot. And if you're feeling gutsy, put a comment down below about what you found fascinating about Maple Leafs training camp so far. Back to the video. Before we talk about that supposed player though, we gotta list the number of injuries that the Maple Leafs already have. As we already know, Timothy Liljegren is out until after training camp. Pierre Engvall has an ankle and foot injury, though he is potentially returning on October 3rd, and Adam Gaudette is day-to-day with a shoulder injury. There is some good news that comes out of this though, and that is the potential return of Jake Muzzin. From Mark Masters, Sheldon Keefe says Jake Muzzin, back discomfort, is expected to join Leafs practice tomorrow. D-Man won't be a full participant though. As we already know though, Jake Muzzin has been dealing with a lot of injuries throughout the summer and entering training camp. So this is a good sign that he is returning to practice with the team, although it might not be for the entire DF practice. It's still a good sign. What's most interesting to me though is they're not really giving a timeline on when he could be back or when there is the possibility for him to get into a game. But again, this is a good news thing, and hopefully for the Leafs' sake, he is back before training camp is over. But the news that hit the Maple Leafs the hardest was announced after their Tuesday session of training camp. From David Alter, Sheldon Keefe says John Tavares has an oblique strain and is out a minimum of 3 weeks. Now, if we look at the Maple Leafs schedule, that puts him to October 18th. And that means he'll miss the first 4 games of the regular season, which isn't the biggest thing, but as well, like I've said in previous videos, when you miss training camp, it's a lot harder to get back into the swing of things once the regular season begins and all the rest of the players have a few games already in them. So it's not going to be a good thing for the Maple Leafs, but they are going to be able to test a few players out in John Tavares' role to see who might be a fit there on opening night. From Luke Fox, Keefe anticipates trying Alexander Kerfoot and Calle Jarnkrok at 2C with John Tavares out a minimum of 3 weeks. This is a very fascinating thing that I'm most excited about. 2 guys, we know Kerfoot is very good on the Maple Leafs at center, usually on the 3rd line. It would be interesting to see how he could fare on the 2nd line for a little bit. Calle Jarnkrok as well has some center experience, so he could be a real fit there. And then either one of them could shift to the left wing unless you want Dennis Malgin there. Obviously the right wing, you're going to have William Nylander, but these 2 guys in particular are such an interesting fit to be that 2nd line center, and I'm interested to see what happens throughout training camp and preseason and whether or not both of them get games. Luke Fox though does tweet out something else a little bit interesting about the history of John Tavares, and he actually has had an oblique injury before. Tavares also dealt with an oblique injury in May of 2019 that needed a month's recovery and caused him to miss the World Championships. So with all of this being said, it could mean that John Tavares is out a minimum of 3 weeks. That is the minimum, or it could be extended. This seems like a very good problem to have, but right now it is the worst possibility of everything. As it stands right now, John Tavares will only miss, like I said, 4 games, and to be placed on LTIR, he has to miss 10 games and 24 days, which is not happening. I mean, it's always possible that they push John Tavares to the 10 games. I do see that as being unlikely though, so there's going to be a lot of cap maneuvering to figure this situation out. Now, as it stands right now with this lineup that I have made on Cap Friendly, the Maple Leafs are $2.4 million over the cap, which means somebody is going to have to be traded here. It was interesting that Sheldon Keefe singled out Kerfoot and Jarnkrok to play that 2nd line center spot for John Tavares, because that makes me feel like Kerfoot could be an untouchable at this point. Now, there are a few players like Kerfoot, like Justin Hall, who do have that tradable cap space that they would need. Hall at $2 million of cap space, Kerfoot at $3.5 million. Obviously, Kerfoot would be the better option to trade at this point, but it could be one of those 2 that could be traded before the regular season begins, when the Maple Leafs do need to be under the salary cap. Now let me know what you would do here. Would you trade Justin Holl and potentially somebody else? Would you let Alexander Kerfoot go in a trade that could bring back maybe some picks and a prospect? Let me know in the comment section down below, but this is just got very interesting for Toronto. I'm not a salary cap specialist by any means, but Pierre Engvall coming back, if you put Pontus Holmberg back down to the Marlies and have Pierre Engvall there, it still remains around possibly, I think, 2.4 minus 8 would be, I believe, 1.6 million over the cap. If that makes sense, that's how it would be once Pierre Engvall returns. Obviously, as well, things will work out once Timothy Liljegren returns, but right now, at this moment in time, like earlier in the summer, where there was a lot of trade speculation, it's going to ramp up soon with guys that are going to need to be shifted out to get, again, below the cap ceiling. Speaking of the Leafs roster, though, this is what I have for opening night so far. Obviously, you shift Pierre Engvall in if he does return, but as of right now, I'm going to leave him out. You have Matthews, Marner, and Bunting on the first line, William Nylander, Yarncroke, and Malgin on the second, Kerfoot, if he stays, David Kampf and Abe Kubel on the third line, Aston Reese, Pontus Holmberg, and Wayne Simmons on the fourth line. Then with the defense, Morgan Rielly, Jordy Ben, Jake Muzzin, TJ Brody, Mark Giordano, Justin Holl, and that's if Justin Holl stays as well. I'm not really going to go too far ahead into the future in terms of if I take Kerfoot out, who's going to play there, or if Justin Holl gets traded, who's going to play there. I'll make a video on that when it actually happens, but for now, this is what I have. I think it's a pretty good, decent lineup for the Maple Leafs for opening night. I mean, Pontus Holmberg would be an interesting guy at center on the fourth line, and obviously you could change things around. Maybe you throw Kerfoot as the third line defense and David Kampf as the fourth line defender. That wouldn't be that bad. And then there's a few other things that you could do as well, but the defense I wouldn't touch because you don't want Justin Holl with Jake Muzzin, and Jordy Ben with Morgan Rielly, I think, to me, works. I said it in the video that I made on Monday. A good guy in Jordy Ben as a stay-at-home defenseman, and Morgan Rielly is a guy who can just jump up whenever he wants to. And maybe if Justin Holl does get traded, maybe you put Victor Mete there, or maybe Liljegren has been cleared to play again, and if that's the case, then you put him there. But that is what I think. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below in terms of potential opening night rosters and lineups, because I think this one's good, but I want to know your opinions, so put them in the comment section down below. Yeah, just as I thought things couldn't get more interesting, this is a big one, and I'm curious to see what the Maple Leafs do. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in Ford Performance Center right now in terms of what the Maple Leafs are talking about behind closed doors, because they're going to need to do something. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, but as it stands right now, the Leafs are going to be over the cap when opening night comes, so they're going to have to figure that out beforehand to get below the ceiling on October 12th. But yeah, that is where I'm going to end off today's video. I just thought I'd make a quick update video on the John Tavares injury and who else is injured throughout the Maple Leafs roster. Let me know what you think about these lines and whether or not you think I'm an idiot or whether you think they're pretty good, or if you want to as well, put your line combinations for opening night in the comment section down below. I'd love to read them and get your opinions. But yeah, that is going to be it for me. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like. If you really enjoyed it, subscribe. 3 weeks time, 4 weeks time, things are going to be very interesting. Very interesting. We'll see you in the next video.